Live from Melbourne, this is 7's Afternoon News with Melina Sarris.
First at 4, the wait is finally over for Formula One fans who've poured into Albert Park, where Aussie stars Oscar Piastri and Jack Doohan have thrilled the home crowd. As Bethan Yeoman reports, the season opener is exceeding expectations, despite questions over the event's eye-watering price tag.
Instead of running to the Melbourne Walk this morning, thousands headed to the Lakeside Precinct to get a front row seat for a Q&A with homegrown driver Oscar Piastri. The 23-year-old was asked a range of rather interesting questions, including his favourite Tim Tam flavour, before hitting the circuit for the first F1 practice of the day.
This is the guy that I would say most of Melbourne has turned out to watch.
It was a good session. Wasn't quite on the pace of Norris, but yeah, really good.
Fair few crashes, that's for sure. Definitely pretty interesting.
Very entertaining.
Yeah.
We love Hamilton and Woodcourt.
What about Oscar Piastri?
Yeah, we like him too.
Despite record crowds expected again this year, new data shows last year's event operated at a $100 million loss. Today, the government defended the cost to taxpayers, saying the impact of hosting the race stretches far beyond Albert Park.
That is only relevant in the context of the economic benefit this event generates. There'll be 80 million people that watch this race on Sunday. Those images go all around the world.
There is a budget, and this is part of that budget.
The F1 Grand Prix has a $3.3 billion economic impact to Victoria, and all of the eyes of the world are on Melbourne for the first race of the season. You can't buy that sort of coverage.
The second F1 practice is on now. Tomorrow, the drivers will get one last go on the circuit before the qualifying session tomorrow afternoon.
Tyra Stowers joins us now from Albert Park. Tyra, you've found one of the best viewing positions in town.
And quite possibly the loudest. Melina, I'm here at the Pullman at Albert Park, and as you can see behind me, it has spectacular views of the racetrack, and the weather has really turned it on for us today. And I'm joined by General Manager Jacqueline Kennedy. And Jacqueline, how does the hotel celebrate this time of the year?
Thank you, Tyra. Well, as you certainly can see, we're definitely in the heart of the action. It is the busiest time of year. But we've actually gone all out this year. The whole hotel has been transformed. We've partnered with Perrier to bring our cafe alive, and then we also have St. Ali Coffee. Grab one on your way to the action. But one of the most exciting things is our whole Mortimer's Bar and Lobby. It's been transformed with Tara and Rose's Winery and the Red Bull DJ spinning the beats after hours. So we hope everyone will come and enjoy.
And it's such a great time for Melbourne. How does this time of the year stack up for the hotel compared to other times?
Well, I can say, based on our location, absolutely this is the premium time of year for us. So super busy, pumped and really excited.
Amazing. Well, the views are in each room as good as this. You can't get better than that. Thank you so much, Jacqueline. And it is set to heat up over race weekend. I'll be back a little later with your full weather forecast, Melina.
Thank you, Tyra. We'll see you later on. The American influencer who snatched a baby wombat from its distressed mother has left Australia. The Department of Home Affairs today confirmed that Sam Jones flew out this morning. The online hunting star was the target of intense public backlash after video emerged of her grabbing the animal. Today, a new clip surfacing of her picking up an echidna and stroking it. It's not clear whether she was deported or left on her own will. The Minister, Tony Burke, saying, quote, "There's never been a better day to be a baby wombat in Australia." Residents on the Gold Coast Glitter Strip have been forced to the streets after a blaze took hold of the Hilton Hotel Tower in the early hours of this morning. As Sam Payne reports, they watched on in shock as burning bits of building plunged to the footpath.
Hundreds have watched on as flames roared from the roof of the Hilton in the heart of Surfers Paradise. Just after 2 this morning, debris began raining down 120 metres to the mall below. The blaze broke out at the Boulevard Tower of the Hilton complex, not the main hotel. An electrical fire is being blamed.
That's roaring up there now.
Hundreds of residents had to be evacuated as firefighters climbed the 32 stories to get at the blaze.
We will notify you once it is safe to use use your balconies again.
The drama witnessed by shocked residents and holiday makers.
This was more frightening than the cyclone. Like the cyclone, we knew it was coming and could talk to the girls.
The fire was contained in around 40 minutes and guests were allowed back in at 6 o'clock this morning.
We were stuck outside for over 3.5 hours, not knowing where to wait, not knowing what was going on, seeing debris fall everywhere.
It's understood firefighters have now left it to Hilton management to investigate further and clean up the mess. No one was injured and it's understood the damage to the Hilton was largely superficial.
Terrified passengers have been forced to climb onto the wing of a passenger plane to escape after it caught fire on the tarmac of an American airport. It's the latest in a string of incidents being investigated by America's aviation authorities. US correspondent Miley Hogan has the latest.
Passengers on board an American Airlines flight have pulled off a remarkable escape after the plane they were on caught fire. Take a look at these pictures. Passengers huddled on the wing of that aircraft. Ground crews racing to reach them and help them get down onto the tarmac safely. Other passengers used the emergency inflatable slides to get out. Passengers running to get away from that plane after it burst into flames.
Oh my gosh. Those must be passengers.
The Federal Aviation Authority says the Boeing 737-800 took off from Colorado Springs headed for Texas. Shortly after takeoff, the crew reported what they called engine vibrations. The flight was diverted to Denver International Airport. After it landed, it caught fire while on the tarmac.
One of the common reasons for fires on planes is uncontained engine failures. It can be indicated by engine vibration.
Remarkably, all 172 passengers and 6 crew members on board made it safely off the burning plane. So far, no injuries have been reported. Now authorities turn their attention to the investigation as they try to figure out what went wrong.
A grieving family is being dragged back through the justice system as a convicted cold case killer appeals his murder verdict. Estelle Griepink has been at the Court of Appeal hearing.
Paul Charlton was found guilty by a jury for murdering his ex-partner, Joanne Howe. He's now appealing that conviction, insisting he didn't do it.
If he gets off and we go for a retrial, we're not getting a second chance. Why is it fair? It's not fair. The system's not fair.
Ms. Howe's family waited 16 years to see her killer finally face justice after the former ABC Countdown singer was murdered in 2007. Today, they returned to court to hear of how Charlton plans to appeal his conviction. His barrister, Paul Smallwood, arguing the jury got it wrong because they hadn't been properly instructed on the possibility someone else had murdered Ms. Howe. Charlton was found guilty in 2023. A Supreme Court jury told he brutally bashed Ms. Howe at her home after she ended their relationship. The now 70-year-old was sentenced to 24 years behind bars, but appeared in person for his hearing today.
He got to come out of prison. Lucky him, he gets a day trip.
Today was the first time Ms. Howe's family have seen Charlton in person since he was found guilty by a jury back in 2023. On that occasion, he fainted and fell backwards in the dock.
Former Labor leader Bill Shorten says Australia should consider retaliating for this week's US tariffs that hit Australian steel and aluminium exports. Live to Tim Lester in Canberra. Tim, what is Bill Shorten recommending?
Well, the predecessor for Mr Albanese now has some advice for him, Melina. He reckons that sooner or later Australia is going to have to join the tariff fight. Earlier this week, of course, Mr Trump turned down Australian and other requests for exemptions as he hit America's aluminium and steel imports with 25% tariffs. Already 2 critical US trade partners, Canada and the European Union, have hit back, announcing reciprocal tariffs on tens of billions of dollars of US-sourced goods. Now, Donald Trump is threatening a $200 200% tariff on European alcohol in reply. It's spiralling. In Australia, both the government and opposition say we should stay out of any fight. No reciprocal tariffs, but the former Labor leader disagrees.
But if President Trump thinks he can push other countries around, sooner or later you have to push back. At the end of the day, if they keep putting tariffs on all of our goods, then we've got to reciprocate dollar for dollar, tariff for tariff.
We'll continue to sell steel. It's just going to be more expensive for the Americans. A calm, considered diplomacy to resolve all of our trade issues with the United States.
Trade Minister Farrell also says he is deeply concerned that our highly lucrative beef export business to the United States will be next to be struck by a tariff from Donald Trump. Melina?
Thank you, Tim. Tim Lester there in Canberra. Stay with us on 7's afternoon news. Next, a pilot flying solo has miraculously survived a horrific plane crash. And the push to lock up knives on supermarket shelves to protect retail workers amid Victoria's crime crisis. We'll be right back. Police are hunting a man in his 30s accused of assaulting an innocent delivery driver in Sunshine North. This man was at a McDonald's on Ballarat Road at 2:45 in the morning on February 1. Detectives say he got into an argument with the delivery driver before attacking him. The accused has a religious cross tattoo on his right arm. A pilot has miraculously survived a horrific plane crash in Sydney's southwest. He was the only person on board when it came down on the roof of a hangar, trapping him inside. Zoe Martin reports.
It was a delicate rescue mission after a man in his 70s landed his plane on a hangar at Wedderburn Aerodrome. The accident happened just before 10 a.m, prompting a multi-agency response as police, firefighters and paramedics worked together to help the man. Crews having to scale the building to treat him on the roof for a head injury.
I believe he was assessed by our medical team in a conscious and breathing stable condition.
It took emergency services around an hour to bring him down from the roof.
Extremely lucky. You're looking at an aircraft that's hit a building. You don't see too many actual survival cases out of an aircraft hitting a building.
Despite being in a neck brace, he gave emergency services a thumbs up before being flown to Liverpool Hospital for further treatment. As for the cause of the crash, the tail of the plane suffered damage. Investigators looking at whether he may have clipped something as he attempted to land. He's now being treated here at Liverpool Hospital, where he remains in a stable condition.
Nurses and midwives are demanding greater responsibilities on the job to help tackle the healthcare crisis. The nation's peak bodies have united with a plea for sweeping new changes ahead of the election campaign.
Nurses should be prescribing medications, leading more clinics and getting patients to specialists without unnecessary delays.
They also want the ability to carry out tests like X-rays to ease the strain on the system. 21 million Americans are under flood alerts as a wild storm moves east. Southern California is cleaning up after a battering which triggered evacuations and rescues. A small twister near Los Angeles packed winds of more than 130 kilometres an hour.
I was like, I was running for my life. Yeah, I just got up. Told my wife, get up, get the kids, and went to the back.
There are now fears the rain will cause a mudslide in the fire-stripped soil. For almost 3 decades, Donatella Versace has defined the world of fashion as creative director of the Italian luxury label. Today it was announced she's stepping down and will take on a new role as chief brand ambassador. Since the murder of her brother in 1997, she's steered the family-owned house to success. Dario Vitali, the former design and image director of Miu Miu, has been named as her replacement. Russian President Vladimir Putin is yet to give the go-ahead to a US proposal for a 30-day ceasefire with Ukraine. The Kremlin says details still need to be thrashed out before signing, especially focusing on Russia's Kursk region, where large areas are held by Ukrainian troops.
3 years after Vladimir Putin launched his invasion of Ukraine,
Today, the first sign a ceasefire might be in reach.
We agree with the proposal to stop the hostilities, but the ceasefire should lead to long-term peace and eliminate the roots of the crisis.
Otherwise, the Russian president says 30 days of peace would be nothing more than a respite for Ukraine, currently losing territory it had seized in Russia's Kursk region.
Will all those come out without a fight? Should we just let them out after their crimes? Or will Ukraine order them to surrender? It's not clear.
As Putin spoke, Donald Trump met in the Oval Office with NATO's Secretary General.
Maybe we're close. We're getting words that things are going okay in Russia, and it doesn't mean anything until we hear what the final outcome is.
Russia is demanding Ukraine not be allowed into NATO. It wants a ban on foreign troops on Ukrainian soil, and the Crimea and 4 other contested regions be recognised as Russian territories.
Бажаю здоров'я.
Demands described as manipulative by Ukrainian President Zelensky, accusing Vladimir Putin of being too scared to tell Trump he wants the war to continue.
Now we're going to see whether or not Russia's there, and if they're not, it'll be a very disappointing moment for the world.
In London, Ben Downey, 7 News.
Sport is coming up after the break. We'll relive last night's epic win from the Tigers. Also, Luke Beveridge gives an update on troubled Bulldogs star Jamara Ugelhagen, and high-speed crashes as the Formula One cars hit the track for the first time at Albert Park. It's time now for the afternoon sport with Beck Madden live at the MCG today.
Hello, Melina. Good afternoon, everybody. Well, the stage is set for Friday night footy with Hawthorn and Essendon squaring off. Xander Maguire's on the boundary with me this afternoon. Good to see you, Xander. There's certainly no love lost between these two sides tonight.
Absolutely not, Beck. Essendon and Hawthorn is seriously one of the great rivalries in AFL footy, dating back to the early 2000s with that line in the sand game where they're all smashing into each other on this very ground. Who could forget that? And it's set to add another famous chapter again tonight.
The Hollywood Hawks will be really relishing. Huge crowd tonight. I think there's an estimation it's going to be over 80,000.
Over 80,000. I spoke to Andrew Dillon last night. He was expecting 90, so it'll be massive. And they proved last week that they can handle the big stage. That first game of the year, which, of course, with the Cyclone, made that Friday night the first game of the year, and they were on top of their game completely. They had the cameras in for the big documentary in the pre-season. They've got their social media channels firing. The Hollywood Hawks, they love the big stage.
Essendon, though, they have high hopes this year. They need to win a final this year. They're well aware of that.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I mean, the pre-season has been pretty promising for them. They went down to Geelong and knocked off Geelong. In Geelong, it is only a practice match, but looked really good. And the area where they're probably going to improve the most is that forward line. You get Nate Caddy in there in his second year. And, of course, Isaac Kako, the man who's a cult figure before he's even played a game.
Let's talk about last night. It was a boil-over. I mean, the Tigers, the mighty Tigers, they came back out of nowhere. Such a young side, such a big win.
Extraordinary. I mean, a lot of AFL experts had their big call of the year being Richmond not winning a game, so they've proved them wrong already. But 41 points down in the second quarter, and to come back like that, to show that resolve as a young side, was extraordinary, and it could be the biggest upset of the year.
Yeah, it could be. The only downside, I suppose, though, for Richmond was Tom Lynch, the Tom Lynch bump.
Yeah, disappointing for Tom Lynch, that bump on Tom De Koning. Just got him in the head. It's likely to be graded as medium impact because De Koning wasn't concussed, which is a saving grace for them. But he's got a little bit of history, Tom Lynch, with the MRO, so he'll definitely draw a bit of scrutiny because of that, and you can probably expect a medium impact careless. That'll be probably a week, and we'll see.
Okay, ticked all the boxes, that one. Thanks very much, Xander. We'll speak to you a little later.
Thanks, Beck.
Thank you. Well, to the rest of the day's footy, and Luke Beveridge has conceded Jamara Ugelhagen won't be playing anytime soon. Kate Massey is live with the details now. Hi, Kate. There's been an intense focus on the Bulldogs this season.
Well, there has, Beck, and it will continue. There is still no certainty, as you say, on when their star forward will return. Jamara has spent time away from the club over summer, and the coach expects that will continue well into the season. Now, there is uncertainty for Luke Beveridge himself right now too. The Dogs coach is out of contract at the end of this season.
There's uncertainty, and I'm okay with that. And I suppose as any practitioner, you're always thinking to yourself, what is next for me? I love what I do. I've got no intention to finish it up.
Now, the Demons, they have made a massive call at selection. Matthew Jefferson, Harvey Langford, Xavier Lindsay, Aidan Johnson and Jack Henderson will all play their first AFL game. Former Brisbane Lion Harry Sharp will also make his debut for the D's.
All right, we've got a Guinness World Record this week, lads. We got 6 every time to the last one.
Cohesion's a big part of footy, so how quickly we adapt and get everyone on the same page will be something that we're looking forward to seeing.
An exciting announcement for the club there, Vec. At 6, we will have the latest from Chris Scott on how Geelong is preparing to face Fremantle in 36-degree heat tomorrow.
It is going to be a hot one. Thank you very much, Kate Massey. Well, to F1 now, Aussie Oscar Piastri has impressed in the first practice session at Albert Park as the Formula One cars hit the track ahead of Sunday's Grand Prix. The Aussie was 4th fastest while McLaren teammate Lando Norris topped the timesheets. While some found the track a bit more tricky.
That is a massive crash for the Haas of Ollie Behrman. For the second year in a row, practice 1 bites hard.
Meanwhile, Cameron Hill scored his maiden Supercars victory in an action-packed shortened race 5. And the crowd numbers are in for today. More than 125,500 people are at the Grand Prix today. Now that is the highest Friday on record. Min Woon Lee made a great start to golf's unofficial 5th major, the Players' Championship at TPC Sawgrass in Florida. Min Woo's one shot off the lead with a 5-under 67 first round. He scrambled to save par on the 18th after shanking his drive and punching through the trees to reach the green.
Oh, that's a good one. What a save.
Aussie Tour rookie Carl Phillips dropped from 4-under to even par over his final 4 holes. A spot in the semis. Well, as Xander just said, Melinda, it is going to be a huge night here at the MCG. There's going to be, I don't know, over 80,000, close to 90,000 people here. It's going to be one hell of a game.
Looking forward to having Friday Night Footy back, Beck. We'll see you at 6. Britain's Royal Mint has unveiled a coin honouring Beatle John Lennon. It marks the year that the singer-songwriter would have turned 85. As well as his face in profile, it has the name of his most famous solo hit, Imagine. The image of the late star's face is based on a picture of him taken by music industry photographer Bob Gruen. The coin will be on sale from Britain's Royal Mint on the 17th of March. It's coming up to 4:30 on 7's afternoon news, and there is still plenty of news to come. The state government's plan to slash parking at train stations across Melbourne. A push to lock up kitchen knives amid Victoria's crime crisis. And the sleep-savvy technology that'll help you get a better night's rest.
From Melbourne, this is 7's afternoon news with Melina Sarris.
5 people have escaped a house fire in Melbourne's north. Crews were called to Best Street in Reservoir around 1:30 this morning to find one of the occupants still stuck inside. Firefighters battled the blaze and brought it under control after 10 minutes. It's not being treated as suspicious. The state government is set to slash the number of parking spaces around new suburban rail loop stations. The Allen government wants to encourage cycling and walking in suburbs including Cheltenham, Clayton, Box Hill and Monash. The plan would result in 1,700 fewer car spots. The number would also be capped at new apartments, offices and supermarkets. There's a push to secure kitchen knives and other blades at supermarkets across Victoria. Secretary of the Retail Workers Union SDA penned a letter to the Premier and he joins me now. Michael Donovan, thank you for being with us.
Good afternoon, Melina.
Do the Allen government laws to ban machetes go far enough?
We don't believe they go far enough. We're concerned about the security of our members in stores that have knives and bladed items for sale. Within the last 2 months, a person in Queensland in a Coles supermarket was seriously stabbed with a knife that was available in the store. So apart from banning machetes, we think the government needs to legislate to ensure that retailers must secure all knives and bladed items until the point of sale. Our view is the safety and security of the staff in the stores and the community is absolutely paramount. People are familiar with the fact that People are familiar with the fact that cigarettes are secured. The retailers choose to secure items like perfume and alcohol and watches, and we don't think it's unreasonable that dangerous weapons like knives and other bladed items should be secured.
Are the staff who are selling these products telling you that they feel unsafe at work?
Yes, that's the message from our members, and we've had examples in the hardware industry where they sell axes to people and people need to carry those axes through the store, and our members feel insecure having customers carrying axes through the store they're working in. So the question of customer abuse and violence is a big one in the retail industry, and often that's opportunistic by people who may be on drugs, and so they will grab whatever is around them, and we think there's a serious obligation on the government to ensure that weapons such as knives and other bladed items are not available to be used in such attacks upon retail workers and the community.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today. Michael Donovan there from the SDA.
Thank you, Melina.
Cars have been set alight and rocks thrown at Parliament in violent clashes between protesters and police in Buenos Aires. Pensioners angry at the austerity policies of the Argentinian government, backed by football fans, fought with riot police. Officers responded with water cannon, tear gas and rubber bullets. Nearly 90 people were arrested and 15 were taken to hospital. British police have been granted more time to question the skipper of the container ship that crashed into a US oil tanker in the North Sea. The Russian national is under arrest on suspicion of gross negligence manslaughter.
Off the coast of East Yorkshire, we're on our way to find the cargo ship which crashed into an oil tanker on Monday morning. Our skipper is Richard Webster.
So how do you know where she is from looking at that map?
Just from the tugs that are around her. There's no positioning now because the vessel is totally burnt out. So there's absolutely no electronics left on board at all. No power, no nothing.
The Salong has drifted 23 miles south since then, and she's now surrounded by tugboats holding her firm. As she comes into sight, so does the smoke.
This is the closest we can get to the Salong. We're around a quarter of a mile away, and from here the damage is clear to see. Smoke is still billowing from the top after 3 days of fire, and after drifting south since Monday, she has finally been secured 6 miles off the Lincolnshire coast. 36 people were rescued from both ships. 1 is feared dead.
And listening to how they were all talking with each other and going about looking for that one person that was lost. You know, it's just a marvellous attempt by everybody.
Water jets are working round the clock. The fire on board the oil tanker is finally out, and this afternoon salvage teams boarded and began making both ships safe. Humberside police have been given more time to question a 59-year-old man on suspicion of gross negligence manslaughter. He was the Salong's Russian captain. Meanwhile, the Marine Accident Investigation Branch will now lead the response into what caused this maritime disaster.
Still to come on 7's afternoon news, the devices helping you catch those 40 winks. And the controversy behind Disney's Snow White remake. Stay with us, back after the break. It's time for our Hot Topics segment here on Melbourne's Afternoon News. Let's bring in Josiah Sharla from Fox FM's Fifi, Feb and Nick show. Josiah, we're going to jump straight in and start with bail reforms. You guys started a petition on the show. Melbourne got behind it. And this week, we got action from the government.
Yeah, good afternoon, Melina. Good that people power can actually make a change. It shows that it's strong enough in our world that we can do that, and we proved that this week. I did the breakfast show with Fifi Box, Brendan Favola, and they put together a petition because they heard people's cries. They said enough is enough. We're sick of feeling unsafe in our homes, in our cars, on our streets. Melbourne it feels like it's turned into Gotham City, and we were hearing so many calls from people that listen to our show feeling that sentiment, and we realised that the ones that are making making us feel unsafe are repeat offenders. So we called on the Jacinta Allen government to make a change to these laws, and we heard nothing for a little bit. And then when that petition that we started gained very, very quick momentum, got over 100,000 signatures in just a few days, she quickly made an announcement on our show on Wednesday, which is great news this Tuesday in Parliament, that she will be tabling that petition and calling for reform on these bail, and hopefully it goes through with the promise.
Yeah, that's huge to have the Premier on your show to make that announcement this week. Now, let's talk about Trump's latest threat, a 200% tariff on European wine and champagne. Surely this is his most extreme measure yet.
Not the alcohol. How dare he? I love that it's taken alcohol for everyone to get really upset. One of my favourite things about this as well is champagne is something that he's called for a ban on. He's calling for Americans to drink local champagne. Turns out champagne can only come from France. Sorry, Donald Trump. Sparkling wine, though, maybe you can drink from America. What I do like about Trump is he's good on his promise. He said he will make America great again. Unfortunately, we do live in Australia, so we are being affected by that, and the rest of the world is. Americans, will they benefit from it? Time will tell. Although closer to home, it is starting to have an effect on us, and I always thought you see it affecting people like our government. You hear the stories in the news. But then I was speaking to my father last night, and he was going to retire at the end of this year, and you see stocks and crypto, and you're seeing superannuation crash as well. Dad's like, maybe I won't be able to retire this year. I may have to work for another few years because it is hurting us back home. It is hurting our pockets. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, absolutely. Everyone will be keeping a close eye on the impacts here. Now let's talk local. Footy is back in Melbourne. I take it you watched last night's game like the rest of Victoria?
Thanks for bringing it up. I'm a Carlton fan. That was brutal. Brendan Favola on our breakfast radio show this morning, as a former Carlton great Hall of Famer, he called it the darkest day in Carlton's history. That's coming from a club that had some, tough times in the 2000s. We've also had our glory days. We're expected to be right at the top of that ladder. We're definitely a top 4 team. Carlton are. Richmond weren't expected to win a game all year. So to make an upset like that, which was it was great for footy, let's be honest. For Carlton fans, not so much. But my focus is on to next week and trying to forget about it very quickly. And more importantly, it's just great to have footy back. It's a great time for Melbourne. The MCG is going to be packed tonight. The Formula One's on. So, yeah, just looking forward to other sport. Let's not talk about Carlton.
I'm sorry for the loss. Okay. It was an incredible start to round 1. And as a Collingwood supporter, I took particular delight in it. I'm sorry.
Another one.
We've also heard today that the American influencer who took a baby wombat from its mother has now left Australia. This story sparked a lot of backlash.
Yep, see ya. Good riddance. I was so fired up by this story. Not many things fire me up, Melina, but this one, when you're seeing an innocent baby wombat, don't even know the name of a baby wombat, but getting taken from a mother for Instagram, this is when you know social media has gone way too far. What really broke me the most was seeing the mother wombat in the background as well. That's when calls to deport her were just at an utmost cry. I've never seen Aussies come out so strong. Even our Prime Minister, Anthony Albanese, he was calling to deport her, and he was saying this is one of the worst things he's seen. So I'm like, strong words from our leader. With that happening, I was like, there must be an election around the corner to hear him so fired up about something.
Yes, well, thank you. You're obviously fired up about it as well, and we love chatting to you here. We will see you next week.
Thanks, Melina.
A good night's sleep is harder than ever with late night scrolling and endless notifications. And this afternoon, we're looking at the devices that promise to help with your rest. Tech editor Sean White takes a look.
What's really interesting is that Aussies are using wearables more and more, and that's to track our sleep data. So there's a whole bunch of devices out there. I mean, you've got things like wristbands, like the Whoop wristband, which gives you a score. So what it does is it compares the amount of sleep that you are getting and how much you should have had. And then you're able to look at that score and go back and sort of look at your day and see where you may have slipped up. Some people don't like wearing tech at all. So there's smart jewelry tech, Remake, which is like a ring, the Samsung Ring. So it's light, it's not heavy at all, and it feels less like a watch on your wrist, and you're still able to get the same data. And then you've got the Apple Watch, probably the most popular wearable. And what this does is track sleep trends over time. And it also has a wind down tool. So you can set your desired sleep amount, what time you need to go to bed and wake up. And then your wind down tool will commence at a certain time before you're meant to sleep. And this all ties back to the fact that tech isn't going to fix your sleep, but it will provide you with data that you can use then to set better routines and I guess better habits. Because the one thing that all sleep experts do really agree on is that the more sleep, the better. So setting those routines is important. And if you just don't like wearing devices at all, there are sleeping mats. Withings actually has a mat that goes under your mattress, so you don't need to have a watch. It still tracks all your data through an app. There's a lot of things out there though that does need research, so it's always good to check in with your GP or an actual sleep expert. And also tech can be bad in that, you know, spending too much time on screens and doom scrolling, that's where you need to flip it around and sort of use tech in the right way.
7 News with Peter Mitchell is coming up in just over an hour. Mitch, the law has just caught up with an Airbnb creep.
Yes, indeed, Melina. Good afternoon to you. The host installed hidden cameras to spy on his guests, and we'll have the latest on that story. Also tonight, the future of housing. Christy Mayer explains how AI could help slash the time it takes to build a house. Can you believe it? A 2-storey, 4-bedroom family home in Melbourne's west is right now being 3D printed.
Wow. And coming up as well tonight, Melbourne is coming alive.
Yes, it is indeed, Melina. We'll take you live to all the Formula One action at Albert Park and to the MCG, where the Hawks are set for a fiery face-off with the Bombers. And if you didn't manage to snag tickets to either of those, Bethan Yeoman has our Pick in Vic segment. All the best weekend activities for Victorian families on a budget. All those stories and more coming up at 6, Mel.
Thank you, Mitch. We'll see you then. Still to come on 7's Afternoon News, growing controversy over the newest Disney remake. And you're taking a live look at the city. Tyra Stowers returns shortly with your full weekend forecast. The much-anticipated live-action remake of Snow White has been plagued with plenty of controversy, forcing its premiere to be scaled back. Talia Tranter reports.
For a big-budget Disney production, this was a remarkably small-scale European premiere. Snow White actress Rachel Zegler singing at a remote Spanish castle to a very select group of VIPs after receiving major backlash. But some may say the live-action remake of the 1937 animation has been cursed from the start, when its leading lady criticised the original.
Anybody here?
The original cartoon came out in 1937, and very evidently so. There is a big focus on her love story with a guy who literally stalks her. Yeah. Weird. Super weird. So we didn't do that this time.
Then there was the controversy over the film's CGI casting of the 7 dwarves, their portrayal described as backward by actor and dwarfism campaigner Peter Dinklage.
They're very proud to cast a Latino actress as Snow White.
Yeah.
But you're still telling the story of Snow White.
Yeah.
7 dwarves.
Sure.
So you're progressive in one way, but you're still making that backward story of 7 dwarves living in a cave.
Magic mirror.
Israeli actress Gal Gadot, who co-stars as the evil queen, didn't attend the European premiere, but Disney's decision to pull back on a glittering red carpet is about more than just the actors' opinions.
I don't think it's one where the stars involved have done anything outrageous. I think it's just that we are living in this really heated political climate right now, and people are acting unreasonably about what is, after all, a film with animals doing the dishes.
Ultimately, the audiences will decide if Snow White will have a fairy tale ending when it hits Australian screens next week. Talia Tranter, 7 News.
It's time now for a look at our roads.
Hi there, it's Mike Humphrey from the Lexus of Brighton Traffic Centre. It's a yellow flag on the Princess Freeway outbound with a smash at Werribee Main Road causing heavy delays back to the Maltby bypass. Elsewhere, a broken down truck in South Melbourne has pitted itself in the middle outbound lane of Kingsway near Albert Road. Traffic compounded by road closures at the nearby Albert Park Formula 1 GP. Book a test drive of the Lexus NX today at Lexus of Brighton. Desire never made more sense. Available in hybrid, plug-in hybrid or petrol. Contact Lexus of Brighton today. Have a great night.
Tyra Stowers is back with the weather. Tyra, we've had great conditions to kick off the Grand Prix.
We certainly have, Melina, and as you can probably see around me, it's still really beautiful out here this afternoon. Lots of sunshine and light southerly winds. The city was down to 14.5 degrees this morning and peaked in the mid-20s. Okay, let's take a look at what happened around the suburbs today. It's been nice and sunny, light winds becoming southeast to southwesterly, hitting 20 k's this afternoon before backing off a little later tonight. Moorabbin hit 25. Further out, we had patches of fog in the morning. This was mainly about the south and mountain areas, then a dry, warm to hot and mostly sunny day. A high-pressure ridge will sit over Victoria until tomorrow when the centre of the high moves over the Tasman Sea, bringing us the heat before a cold front approaches. Okay, let's take a look around the country now. Brisbane 29, Sydney 32 and partly cloudy, Hobart 26 and showers, Adelaide a scorching top of 39 for you. Back home, it's likely to be dry and mostly sunny. These hot and dry conditions have also contributed to an increased risk of fire in parts of tomorrow too. Mildura reaches 41. Closer in, partly cloudy in the morning with light winds becoming northwest to northeasterly, reaching up to 30 k's. Point Cook 33 is the top. In the city, the high is 34, the low is 17 and partly cloudy. Okay, looking ahead, Sunday showers and 26. Monday drops by nearly 10 degrees. Tuesday, only the slight chance of a shower, 23 is the high. Wednesday clears to a sunny top of 28 and Thursday 25. Friday the same with a bit of a drizzle, so we are looking at a very hot start to the weekend, but I'll be back at 6 o'clock to tell you how the week is shaping up, Melina.
Thank you, Tyra. We'll see you then. And that's all from Melbourne's afternoon news for your Friday. Thank you for joining us. For now, from the 7 News team, enjoy the rest of your afternoon.